So let's talk about Nebraska Angels. Nebraska is not what I think most, when we think about startup investing, go to as the hub. And yet, your community has consistently shown up in the Angel Capital Association's annual reporting as one of the top 5 most active investor networks in the country. Tell me about Nebraska Angels. How is that happening? Give me the story and maybe how you got involved specifically.
Yeah. So Nebraska Angels is established in 2006. So it's actually our 20th year anniversary this year in August. So right around the corner, which is super exciting. Started off with 10 members that all were interested in venture-backed startups or just startups in general because they've built their own businesses. They wanted some interesting jobs for their kids to stay in the state. And then it's evolved to today where we have over 100 different members. 70 of those are individual investors, and then another 30 members are either part of a corporate firm, a corporate venture arm, or a venture fund as well. So kind of have that full picture of helping people find those deals and go through the diligence with them to facilitating that transaction for our members too. So we've had a lot of good supporters in the background, a lot of great entities like a Mutual of Omaha and Nelnet, Invest Nebraska to help us and support if that's through leading the deals or co-investing with us. That's super great to have them a part of the group as well. So other than that, we help our portfolio companies a number of different ways outside of just the capital that comes through. So we've been connecting with a lot of out-of-state funds and angel groups to help them raise the subsequent rounds of funding that maybe Nebraska couldn't necessarily provide, or get into Series A, Series B, really looking on the coast for those rounds of funding. We live right around pre-seed seed, so companies have some sort of traction in terms of revenue, product in the market. We don't lead rounds of funding, so it's pretty easy for us to write a check fairly quickly by using that lead investor's diligence if that's within the state or out of state. So most of the companies we do see are Nebraska-based, which is great, but we have also funded a number of different Midwest companies as well.
So what would you say your community is particularly excellent at? If there's one or two or maybe 3 categories of, industry focus, or what are you guys really good at?
So we host monthly meetings. We pull a decent amount of members to those to serve dinner, drinks, but then also invest and see the companies pitch at our monthly meetings. So part of it is that social side of when everyone walks in the room, there's no hierarchy, there's no people think they're better than the other, but it's more of just a great group of people that are all interested in startups, all interested in helping these companies grow. And so I think the culture is a super interesting piece that I've heard our previous directors, but then also our board mention, where it's super interesting to see, everyone's interested in startups. Everyone wants to invest and participate, no matter who's sitting next to each other. So I think that's one piece that we're super good at, and that makes people really comfortable to invest, that they know they can trust the person across the table from them, another investor, to really talk about those deals and make sure they're making that data-driven decision as well, but then also having that background to be confident in writing the check.
A quick note before we continue the conversation. Alongside the Diligent Observer podcast and newsletter, I also run an outsourced operations service specifically built to serve angel networks. My team handles things like initial screening, social media, newsletter prep, platform management, and a whole lot more. The kinds of things that either aren't getting done or shouldn't be done by busy community leaders. If that sounds interesting to you, send me a note. Now, back to it. Community and social experience is something we've consistently seen is what makes these investor networks so special, as opposed to just doing it totally on your own. I'd love to hear more about how you got involved in the community and what your focus has been since kind of joining the group.
So I was able to work for a couple of our portfolio companies in college, now portfolio companies, which was a great background just to see how the business operates. One was about 90 to 100 employees, and then the other one was 5 employees. So it's super interesting to see how those companies were built while I was there. But then also was a part of a student-led group in college called Maverick Venture Fund. So grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska, moved up to Omaha for school, played golf there for 4 years, but then was also part of Maverick Venture Fund. So student-led organization that write checks into Nebraska-based companies. And once graduating, I was able to work for Nebraska Angels in a part-time capacity, but then also a law firm based out of Lincoln called now Michael Best, the Enterprise Legal Studios was the name of it, and we still work very closely together with that group down there, which was super interesting to get inside the weeds or deep in the weeds on diligence of the companies, meeting the founders and the investors in the room, helping with membership onboarding. I think that's super important for new members that haven't invested in startups in the past, which then led to our previous director left. And so I was able to take over her position and been in the seat for about 2 years then. So all in all, it's always great to hear the members' perspectives, thoughts on the deals, but then also meet the founders that are building as well. So, the main initiatives over the past few years is really connecting with those out of state angel groups and firms. So, there's a number of us that are part of the Midwest Angel Syndicate. So, early stage venture funds and angel groups will join this monthly call that we all host, and that's a great way to talk shop between these angel group investor or operators like myself, but then also to share deals back and forth between our groups. The other piece is the venture funds too. We found that a lot of VCs will be leading these rounds that we are interested in participating in. We have invested in angel group led rounds as well, but that's also super helpful as a company goes to raise subsequent rounds of funding, as mentioned earlier. So that's the biggest piece of growing that network outside of the state, but then also the membership onboarding process as well. A lot of these investors aren't really in touch with what the startup ecosystem is, which is totally fine. They didn't grow up or build a business in the startup ecosystem or venture-backed startup ecosystem, but they still have a wealth of knowledge that we can pull on for industry expertise or networking. So making sure by pulling on our members' experiences to provide them some sort of course or workflow to get more in touch with startups and what it means to write a check and how many checks you should write, and kind of down the rabbit hole on that side of things.
So I'm curious, Josh, I mean, you've been involved for 2 years-ish now in this full-time capacity. Why do you think your community consistently shows up in this top 5, top 20, list? Like, what is it that you guys that are doing that is so special? React to that. I'm just curious.
I think it's a collaboration between our members and collaboration between the funds that are based in the state and also those that use us for deal flow and diligence. I think Nebraska has a little under 2 million people within the state, if not around that number. So there's no real room for sharp elbows as you kind of narrow it down of who's investing capital in the states.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Diligent Observer. I'm your host, Andrew, and if you're an angel investor looking for essential angel intel in 5 minutes every week, I think you'd enjoy my newsletter. I send my best stuff, interesting deals, and more straight to your inbox so you never miss a thing. Subscribe today at thediligentobserver.com.